Up again here, second half of the show, and things going down. I got to get the flock camera thing in here because it's. I mean, that story is just picking up more and more heat every day, and I'll give you a little roundup of it. But first, AJ got a call from one of our listeners, and thank you to the folks that are out there in it. But we've got a pretty bad. It seems like a pretty bad accident on 459 where they've had to shut down. I think it's both lanes. I'm trying to see from the marker here on the maps. No, it's just the lane on 459 down around exit 1. It's in McCalla. That would be the lane that goes toward 59, right? Westbound lane, I guess it would be called. And so apparently the witness that called in said that there were cars south. They call it southbound. Okay. 459 always screws me up because it's not really a north-south. It's not really a north-south thing. It's kind of an east-west thing in part of it. So, but we do call that the southbound lane. And so, but it's, again, going toward, if you were heading toward I-20, 59. And we've got cars flipped over. We've got a heavy police presence. AJ, did they say anything about an 18-wheeler being involved or any of that stuff?
No, they didn't say anything about that. It just said some vehicles were overturned.
Okay. So we got overturned vehicles, and usually if it's going to be a hazmat situation with a big truck or a fatality, it's going to take a lot longer to clear it up. Otherwise, they can pretty much get this stuff moved over and get the traffic flowing. So if you're heading in that direction, just be super careful and know that. Let me look at the backup. The backup is all the way to, let me find the next intersection. The backup is not quite to 150, exit 10. But it's getting to that other exit that's right there. It's backed up past the Morgan Road exit. So just be careful. If you're going to find your way home today going that way, go around it. Use Shades Crest or find some other way to get into that part of the city. And we'll keep you up to date on the details of that wreck. Real quick, Axiom Tax Resolution Group bringing you the show tonight. That is Perry Cronin and his team over there ready to help you with the IRS. Man, I've known people to be behind the eight ball with them. Perry shared stories with me of some of the things. We were at a Christmas event one time, and Perry was there with us. It was Perry's event. He invited us to this very nice Christmas gathering years ago. And I'll never forget him telling me a story of he had one client that came to him just in grief over the calamity of owing a big tax bill and all the IRS had done to him. And he looked at the records and he told them, you don't need to do anything. And they thought he was a madman. I mean, here he was. He could have cashed in, charged them a big old fee. He just said, no, they've already missed their deadline on this. What? I didn't even know that was a thing. There are deadlines for them to collect in some cases. Who would know that but somebody like Perry that is an expert at these things? So the IRS in that case, he didn't give me particulars. He protected the privacy of the folks. He just told me the scenario. The IRS had exceeded their deadline, but we're still harassing these folks for their money. And they had the upper hand in that case. So it's good to know somebody like Perry to give you the real answers on how to get this off your back. There are programs, even if it's a legit debt that you legit owe and you legit screwed up and don't have the money for it, there are programs in some circumstances, a lot of circumstances, that can get you settled for less than you owe, as much as 80% off that bill. And then you get it worked out with them. The IRS will actually back off and work with you if you know how to work with them. Who would know how to work with them? What a beast. Who are you going to call? How are you going to get in there? Perry knows. Perry knows exactly how to approach it, what to offer, what's reasonable, how to get you squared away. Because I always say it, I don't mean it to sound depressive, but every time we get one tax bill worked out, here comes another one. It's just the government, man. It's what they do. It's Perry Cronin. That's his name. The business is Axiom Tax Resolution Group. The website is 205tax.com. He's local. He knows as much and more about this than anybody in the country. And rather than deal with some referral business that you saw on TV, go sit down with Perry face to face and let him get this worked out with you. The phone number is 205-872-1100. Again, Axiom Tax Resolution Group. All right, it's flock camera time. I think we're going to have to come up with the we're going to have to come up with a theme for this one because it's showing up in the news every day. We used to do that all the time, all these gimmicky themes. What can we do, AJ? Flock of seagulls? I'm just kidding. Remember flock of seagulls with the hair? So, yeah, let's just play. That could also work for Iran, the Iran situation, because their song was, Iran, so Dad joke. Anyway, so the flock stories all in the news again today. And what we're seeing, we're sort of in a new stage. We got the public awareness stage. People, these things were being put up by the thousands all over this country, and people just kind of saw them over there, just thought it was infrastructure. And then people started realizing that what they're doing. So here comes the PR battle. Police departments and government officials and the flock company start putting out anytime there's a rescue or a kid found or some criminal caught, they obviously want to get that story out. Oh, these are just tag readers. But it's where they're putting them. They're putting them in sensitive places. It's the data they're collecting. I found 4 more stories last night of police personally using them to track people in their lives, spouses, ex-spouses, girlfriends, wannabe girlfriends, just stupidity and irresponsibility at some of these departments. And it's not one issue where, say, the president can put an end to it or Congress can put an end to it, because these are jurisdiction by jurisdiction. It's police department by police department, cities and towns at a time entering into these contracts where this private company is given permission to post these things out in public and create this big surveillance network. So we talked about it yesterday with the capabilities. If you want to look at the harm into it, the capabilities of this down the road with the social credit system that the globalists are still trying to implement here. They're still trying. Trump's not going to stop them forever. He'll be gone in a couple of years. They'll be back with this stuff where you've got to be a good little citizen or you don't get rights. And they need a surveillance system to do this. This is a surveillance system. It is a meshed, interconnected surveillance system. Although the company will maintain a lot of this data is held locally, Flock doesn't own it. The departments have it. It's up to them. But we don't have any rules for it because there's been abuse because of access. Y'all know the story. The news stories are the heat on this is starting to really create pushback on the part of public officials. Namely, here in Alabama, we've had at least 3 or 4 legislators to speak out against them. 1819's done a great job covering this story, where policymakers who still won't be back in session for several more months, but they're starting to feel that heat too and distrust from the community. And they're bringing up potentially legislation that could either achieve a balance between the invasion of privacy and our constitutional rights and a being effective police tool, a policing tool. How they figure that out, I don't know. But now we're having the conversation. So day after day, we're getting more and more Alabama officials pushing back. We've seen cops arrested for abusing the system. Today alone, John Wall, who's running for lieutenant governor, he's got the Republican nomination for lieutenant governor, out again, speaking against this surveillance state technology. And so the opposition is building. Now, the city of Asheville, North Carolina, and this is important. Asheville is a super left-wing city. It is very, very blue. It's a weird little spot in the middle of North Carolina. Beautiful town to visit, by the way, but weird. Just a bunch of weird mountain hippies, but I do love going there. But Asheville City Council apparently are meeting to talk about banning these cameras from their city. What's important about that? It's because this is now coming from the left and the right in this country. The leftists can have their own reasons, but here in this country, libertarians, people that lived through the abuses of COVID, we're just not going to trust the government with more capability to interfere with our rights and our ability to live our lives. And that's all this is. I do acquiesce. It's probably an incredible tool under certain circumstances for the cops. I'm very pro-cop. I want the cops to catch all the bad guys, put all of them in prison, all of them. I want people locked up. I want mass incarceration. That was considered a pejorative back in 2020. Mass incarceration. They didn't go around and round these people up. These people committed crimes and put themselves in there, and they should be in there. We got stories all day long about that, where people were let out early and not dealt with severely by the system, and they're out still maiming and killing people. A horrifying story of an illegal immigrant in Alexandria, Virginia, that killed a mom. He knew the woman. He was caught and turned back into the country at the border by the Biden administration. Now he's killed a mother there in that town. So yes, we've got to deal with criminals, but the trade-off that you're asking the public to do with this new technology is to give up any semblance once you walk out the front door of your home of any kind of privacy whatsoever. That data is collected on you just for moving about. And that's a surveillance state. That is the most un-American thing I can imagine. And I'm coming around more and more every single day that we've just got to shut this whole system down. There's got to be a better way to do this. We managed to solve crimes and take care of problems for the whole history of this country without this technology. So now the point is you've got Democrats and Republicans coming at this issue. We've found some common ground across party lines of people that are unnerved about the approach to policing that these things represent. Some of me believes it's the sort of anti-police vibe that the left has. They don't want the police to have any more power or capability. That's their concern. Ours is our constitutional rights and our freedom for the most part. And maybe there's a mix in between the two groups, but hallelujah if we can find an issue that we can all agree on as a society, that we don't want to be surveilled like this. We don't want to live in an Orwellian Big Brother society. So I think the volume's going to grow louder. Now, look, you've got stuff like, and I've seen this passed around online. I'm hesitant to even mention it, but you've got stuff like somebody's trying to create a nationwide movement where they destroy these things on Halloween night. Like it's a night for people to go out and take down all the flock cameras. Y'all, they're just going to put them back up. These people got infinite money to sell to these municipalities to continue to keep these things. This is their whole business. And you could get arrested. I saw one guy, the most creative thing I've seen all day. These things are put out in public on the public right of way. And the flock people will argue with you, and flock proponents will argue with you and say, and there's been case law established along these lines of you don't have a right to privacy if you're on the public roads. That's actually true in some ways. I mean, that's not pure, but I just know this from working in the television news business. You go to a crime scene, you go to any kind of news that you're covering, as long as you stay on the sidewalk or out in the street and off somebody's personal property, you can shoot what you want that's visible from there. And so those expectations, same thing with other surveillance cameras that are out in public. But again, these aren't just cameras, it's data collection. It's invasive data collection without a warrant and without the ability for the individual citizen to even know the data has been collected or to opt out of it at all. Those options aren't there. So we've got to keep the heat up on it. The creative guy, he decided to stage a one-man protest against a particular flock camera. So he set up right next to one, didn't touch it, but he put up a 12-foot sign that happened to just be blocking the camera. And it was his way of protesting. He just put this big sign up that made the flock camera useless. I don't know how long he can stay out there on the streets doing that, but he made a point, and it was a funny photograph. That's a smarter approach than going out and committing vandalism and doing what we accuse the left of doing all the time when they're pitching a hissy fit over something. They're the people that were bombing Teslas and spray painting stuff. We don't need to be those people. There's a better way to do this. Here's the better way. Yell at your representatives that are in the legislature. Yell at your mayor. Yell at your city council. Get the maps. Ask for the data. Know what's going on. And be intrusive yourself on your city and state government. That's largely where these deals are cut. The president was asked about them the other day. I can't imagine this is even on his radar. And eventually all the federal officials will have something to say. But it's an issue of our time, and it's not the first time. Just in the last week, I connect all these issues in my mind. Mr. Church and his deal with the power company and their growth and need to build all this infrastructure because the AI thing, that's part of the tech. It's part of the digital world we're moving into. That debate is part of all this. The data centers themselves. The Republicans are foolishly letting the Democrats get a populist upper hand on that issue. And I keep warning them. I've been warning them. They're allowing this to be partisan, and it shouldn't be. There should be just as many Republicans concerned about how we do the data centers, not whether we do them. We're going to do them, but how we do them and where we do them, they need to be all in on that. Same thing with these flock cameras. It looks like more and more Republicans are coming around in Alabama, and so do we also need the Democrats to do it where they have power. It's not. I mean, in Asheville, a Republican wouldn't have anything to say about this. But if the Democrat mayor decides they want the city to end their contract with Flock Safety, now Flock Safety's got an issue because they pissed them off too. Crazy times, man. The ethics of tech all in our faces all day long, and we're just getting started. Let's talk about Hueytown Pawn and my man Tommy and Adam and all those guys. It's been a crazy few days for them over there. And, you know, look, they, just to give you a backstory, they started, of course, for years as just a straight up pawn shop. Over time, they started doing more and more gun business. They decided to get into the gun business. And they created these lines of new products, huge gun counter, wraps around the entire store, great selection on tactical, hunting, everything you can imagine, old school pistols, new type things. The latest thing has been the sound suppressors and the silencers. And so that was all based on the rulings. We've gone through that many, many times. They've just about got cleaned out of anything that was eligible under that Texas ruling, but he's got a few of those left. You'll have to, it's going to be case by case, what they have and whether it matches up to what the law is allowing right now. Still a lot of confusion in the industry over that. He let me know that they got in a new shipment. They just ordered them yesterday, but they'll soon get more of these AR-12 12 gauges. Stupidest gun I've ever bought, but I had to buy one. I was in there last week. I had to do it. I did it. Very cool. Y'all reach out and go see them over in Hueytown. If you're getting ready for hunting season and you want to be all leveled with everything you can get for your rig or your setup, depending on the type of hunting you're doing, they can help you out at Hueytown Pawn too. Ammo, all of it. Accessories. It's a cool shop. Hueytown Pawn, Brook Lane Drive. Y'all go get to know Tommy and that crew over there. You'll have instant friends, and you might even get yourself a deal. Hueytown Pawn. Back here in just a minute. All right, it's 428, Leland Live, talking 995, EcoView Windows and Doors. This is Becky Jackson's incredible window company. Y'all let them help. They've got the plan for you. They can flat come and get you improved. They're coming out to do the install on my house. We're still working on some details on that. I look forward to the project because I know I've never seen their I've never seen their installers work, especially not on my own house. But I've gotten so much feedback here on the show from y'all that have done these window replacements and are just amazed at how quickly they work, how clean they leave everything, how they just improve your home so quickly. It's amazing how fast a good window project can go. And then down the road, you're going to save 35% on your heating and cooling bills with EcoView. That's just science. They know their windows make your house more thermally efficient, and then they know what the industry averages are, which means some of you are spending even more than that. Some of you could be spending 50% of that power bill in the heat, then in the cold of winter is just going out the window. Even the smaller bills, it's gone. We talk about the price of a power bill. Some of that we're driving up ourselves with inefficient homes. So do this project and get Becky Jackson and her team to come do it. They'll give you a free estimate, give you that 35% guarantee, back the windows and all of their products with extended warranties that just even glass break warranties in case something goes wrong after they've left. Talk to them and get them to come out and give you a free estimate. It's ecoviewwindows.com. Let me give you that again. This is the company you want to come spruce up at your house, ecoviewwindows.com. All right, let's do the bottom of the hour break, and then we're going to come on back. Got to get into some other things. I got a long list today. We got to talk about deportations. That's also on the list. Haven't gotten to that yet. 545-9950. If you want to get in on the show, bring it. Lead on live. All right, y'all, 435. Here we go. Here we go. All American Metals next up here on the show. A lot of y'all have heard me talk about this wonderful company. Right when I first met them, I already had my pole barn built, but I had created some damage. Let me tell you what dumb thing I did. Heading to Jawbone Jam a couple of years ago, rushing to get over there. It's 300 degrees. You remember that real hot one we had over at Siluria, AJ, when it was like 95 that afternoon? I'm sweating. And packed all the gear. I was putting food in there because I was going to use the RV as a place for my band to hang out and anybody else. Well, AJ hung out with us in there. We had some AC. We needed some air conditioning, and so I'm racing to get out there, and I left one of the slides open. And in the back one I couldn't really see, and had the lights off, so I really couldn't see in the mirror what was going on. I hit that damn door so hard. It was like the world had caved in on me. I felt like I was in Venezuela during an earthquake. And what it did was it pushed the wall out a little bit and caused some of the sheet metal to bend outward. Now I was able to straighten up the door and tweak the garage door and all that. And that was a pain in the butt just to get that thing off the RV so I could get out of here. Rode to the event with the slide out, and that was just one of the funny, self-deprecating, dumb things I'm capable of doing. I kid around at home. I'm pretty good at fixing things, but I'm also good at breaking things. I'll probably break a third as many things as I'm able to fix, and then I got to go fix those. But that's just life, isn't it? The more crap you have, the more crap you got to deal with. All American, John, they came on the show, and I told them about my barn project. And I said, I'll tell you what, John, I've got a weird situation, and it's super high up. It was about 15, 17 feet off the ground, and I had tried to get at it with a ladder. It was just impossible. You needed to know what you were doing. Some of the building had to kind of come apart. Dude, those guys came here. John made one trip over here. He took a look at it, took some pictures. He left, and I thought to myself, true story, I thought, I know they're good, but you're going to be able to tell the new part from the old part. By the time they showed up with the sheet metal, it was the exact pattern. I didn't even buy the metal from them. It was the exact pattern, the exact color. I would challenge you to come out to my house and try to figure out where that damage was. They had it fixed in a matter of hours. I was so grateful to have real pros do that. Now, I tell you that's a little side story. They're not in the barn patching business. They're in the barn making business. They build and design and produce in their factories steel buildings of all type. Mine is actually probably on the lower end of what they do, a pole barn, a simple pole barn, and a lean-to project. These guys do giant industrial warehouses, mini storage, retail build-outs, all of it. Residential red iron. They produce the metal in their factories right here at home. And because you're working with local folks, their response time is better. Their turnaround on your plans, which they'll produce for you, some engineered plans for what you want to build. Everything is turned around quicker. Their price is better. Their product is custom because they're right here. And if for some reason, if anything in your kit is not quite right, or you need to double down, or maybe sometimes you even bend things and mess things up during construction, you need another piece. They're right here, man. They'll get you patched up. This is a wonderful group of people, two families that have been doing this. They've been up there walking on those steel beams since the 1960s, and now they're available for all of us, whether it's a business application or just residential. It is All American Metals. They're over in the Bessemer, Hueytown area. I always give you both names because their factories and facilities are kind of scattered out. But just these folks will flat take care of you if you got to build something. All American Metals, aa-metal.com, aa-metal.com. All right, let's go to the deportations and the immigration stuff for just a minute. We haven't really talked about that in days and days. And you know, I remember back when we first started this radio show, it was 2 radio stations ago. Man, almost 17 years ago. This was the hottest issue in the country was immigration. And we kept getting it wrong. We just kept getting it wrong. The Republicans would hold us hostage saying, well, there's nothing we can do. The Democrats won't work with us. The Democrats wanted the votes, and the Republicans wanted the cheap labor for a lot of their business supporters. And they were happy to pretend to fight about it and look the other way. And how many times did we get close to anything that looked like enforcement? And then they would come at us with these dumb things like comprehensive immigration reform, which meant they would say things like, our system is broken. The system was not broken. The system was being abused by our own government. for cynical reasons. And then we started seeing it happening all over the world, and you knew something was up. These NGOs, using our own tax money in some occasions, were actually they were like giant travel agencies moving these masses of humanity into our country for, I think, sabotage reasons and political power. And the Democrats were very much on board with it, and Republicans were until they realized what the game was. It wasn't just because your donor needs some both cheap and reliable. Look, they needed reliable labor. Some of these folks have a better work ethic than a lot of Americans. They just do. And for years, we've maintained that we should have had a better system. We do have a system for vetting people that are coming in, but it was just being ignored. So there was no vetting. We don't know where they're coming from. For just made up reasons, we would give status. We would allow people to stay over on student visas, which is what the 9/11 hijackers did, by the way. We had just people that would cross and never be detected. We had people that were catch and release. We made up a whole fake thing called DACA. It's not even a thing. That was just something Obama made up. Let's do it for the kids. Oldest trick in the Democrat playbook. We've got these dependents and children of these people that come over. We can't send them back. The hell you can't. So they were dragging kids across. Cartels were kidnapping kids, pairing them with people that needed to get across under DACA when we started that. These people had no relations to the kids. We started doing some DNA testing at one point on the border and found out a lot of these kids coming across were not even related to the people that were claiming they were their kids. They just needed a front to get in the door. So y'all know the chaos and how it's gone. But one of the things that was done and absolutely abused under the Biden administration was TPS status. TPS is just temporary protected status. It means these people are coming from a war-torn situation, or sometimes it may have been natural disaster, and they would extend TPS to groups of people. They weren't good at putting a number on it, like, okay, we're going to allow, let's just pick on Haiti because they're close by. Haiti's going through one of its typical calamities since it became a country, whether it's a natural disaster or dysfunction. And we said, we're going to let 1,000 Haitians in. No, they just say TPS for Haitians. So here come all the Haitians. You saw the problems at Eagle Pass when they were bum rushing the border. Then it was Ethiopia. Then it was some of the Afghanis after we botched the pullout from Afghanistan. So they were handing out temporary protection status all over the map. Well, at some point, somebody looked at the phraseology and realized the word temporary was in there. That would be the Trump administration. Going, okay, well, we were giving these people shelter under humanitarian reasons, but it wasn't temporary. They're still here. They had overstayed their visas in some cases by years, just based on the country they were from. That's not a controlled, methodical way to do immigration. Y'all, it's sad to see some of the good people get caught up in this. I got a heart like you do. If you've ever met somebody from one of these countries and they're here doing the best they can to work. But the bottom line remains is they didn't come here the right way. And they knew they didn't come here the right way. And if they're illegal, they know they're illegal. But they come anyway. And then here comes Trump and the deportations. And some decided, well, we're going to stay and risk getting caught. What's the worst that can happen to you if you get caught? You get to go back to your home, your actual home. And by the way, deportations, they're not being sent to Auschwitz. I saw a liberal guy crying online the other day about it. They're not being sent to death camps. Kids aren't being ripped out of people's arms like is being described. They're being sent home to where you came from, to your mom's house, where your aunts and your uncles live. You're going back. And if you do it right, you got a chance to come back in here the right way. If businesses need labor, then the country has a right to assess that, decide how much labor, who would be the best laborers, who's got skills, let them in. We're all for that. Open the door, come on in. You can contribute to the country. It is how we did immigration for the whole existence of this country. It is how immigration is done all over the world. Not a single civilized country in the world that wants to keep the integrity of their country just allow masses of people from all different reasons and backgrounds to just invade your country. This little town of Ceuta that got invaded by the Moroccans a couple of weeks ago in a shocking series of videos, they're now having to round up women in Ceuta, these ignorant women who think they're being compassionate, and get them away from the refugees that poured in, because their assaults and violence are being, some of them are being grabbed and drug up into the mountains for these voracious men that barged across that border into that town. It's not very much different than some of the things we've seen here over the years. So why am I talking about all this all of a sudden? Well, the last appeal of the TPS situation has finally worked its way through. Months after Trump became president, and they're trying to get these deportations done. One of the things that's held up some of the deportations, which is why some of the MAGA base is still pissed at Trump. They don't feel like it's been aggressive or enough. But some of it was all these federal cases. It was the American left judge hopping and judicial activist judges trying to pretend they've got control of the administrative branch and interdicting in many, many ways over these various situations. Instead of filing one TPS case, they filed one for each people group that was here under different circumstances, for the Sudanese and the different countries that they came from. Well, the last of those was cleared on appeal just, I believe it was over the weekend. And now all of the TPS cases have been adjudicated to the point where they've got Supreme Court backing. That doesn't mean the left won't try to do it again with one of these judges. But as of, I think, 2 days ago, TPS is over. If the president, who has the authority to issue TPS, which is compassionate and needs to be done in certain circumstances, the same administrative branch can pull TPS, especially when the period is up. They can declare that the period is up. And so that's what Homeland Security, the Trump administration, are doing right now. They're just saying, okay, TPS is up for this group and that group. Y'all need to go home. They've got the option to go home. So the truth is, some of them got here with these NGOs and some of these activist groups sponsoring their transportation, and now they don't know how to get home. And I guess they could turn themselves in, and we're handing out free rides. Some are, again, taking the chance to whether or not they will get caught. We've got others that have self-deported. They don't want to hassle it. They don't want to be getting up worried about getting arrested and deported that day. So they're just going back home, which is the smart thing to do. And the offers are still out there. If you want to go home and apply to be here, you've got the right to do that. But if we have to catch you and round you up and deport you, criminal or not, if you're here illegally and we have to go through all that, you're not coming back. You're not going to be allowed back in under any legal means. And so the smart play is to take the money and run. Take up the incentive money, take the free flight, go home, go to the consulate, apply to come in here. And maybe if we can get that part of the system straightened out, and it does need some work, we can let folks back. And then the economy and our culture and our people have a chance to assimilate to the newcomers. It's how any country should do it. It's how we always did it, in a methodical, thoughtful, compassionate way. What the left is screaming about right now is not, ICE isn't, they're not Nazis. They're not rounding people up. They're not intending to harm people. The only people they've had to shoot are people that confronted them in the streets. I heard one of them the other day saying, we never had an agency just going around shooting Americans. Look, we never had an agency being confronted by these lunatics either. Throwing themselves in the streets and into harm's way by fighting with these federal agents, doing the job we asked them to do, the job that more than half of this country voted for them to do. This has to stop. Any country that's reasonable gets a handle on this situation. And so TPS is the latest story to make the news with regard to all the immigration. Mike is over here on line 3. Let's get Mike in here real quick. We'll do some calls. What's up, Mike?
Just calling about the immigration thing.
Yep.
My wife was born in Germany. My mother-in-law was born in Germany. My cousin's wife was born in the Philippines. My best friend's from South Africa. So I think I got a pretty much, a little bit of an knowledge about the whole immigration thing. And I can tell you one thing, it makes them mad because they're all naturalized citizens. It makes them mad, the thought of people thinking they ought to just be handed citizenship.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got Hispanic friends that came here the right way that are generations deep in this country. They're as American as any of the rest of us, and they resent it because it's making them look bad. If you're walking around and you're a Hispanic American and this is your country too, but you get labeled with all of these illegal people did, and it's other countries as well. We just let it get out of hand for decades. Trump ain't going to fix it the next 2 years either. As aggressive as they're trying to be, it's going to take a long time to sort this stuff out, but it has to happen.
Well, and also part of it is the assimilation piece of it. My friend, when he came from South Africa, before he came from South Africa, they actually took him and his wife and their kids actually took English courses in South Africa before they came to the United States because they wanted to be able to, communicate when they got here. They don't ask anybody to, they didn't ask anybody to say, hey, we need a special, you need to have a special interpreter for us to be able to take do any of the paperwork, anything. They do it themselves,
Look, the books at Ellis Island are full of how hard.
My mother-in-law talks about her generation, my mother-in-law talks about her generation in Germany didn't learn English like the younger Germans do now, and how hard she had to study English to come to the United States. So.
Well, if we invite you in, you should want to be here. You should want to jump through the hoops to be one of us. And in doing so, we always had these requirements. Ellis Island, the books at Ellis Island, the registers, the logs, they all noted these things. They would inspect you for TB. They would ask if you had a job. Do you have a relative? Do you have money? You couldn't come in here to be a drain on the system because the system was not going to be able to afford it. And then those families, when you were in an Italian family in New York City, those families have an incredible legacy of saying, look, speak the Italian at home. We'll make our food, but you got to learn English. We want to assimilate and become Americans. And so any decent person is going to attempt to do that. And I think others will if we just go back to that very rational system. Teddy Roosevelt and this whole country shut down immigration completely at the turn of the century because we had so much so fast trying to populate the West. The culture was getting out of control. There wasn't time for assimilation. And he did a whole speech on assimilation saying we've got to stop it for a while to let everything settle because these groups are at each other. The Chinese, the Irish that were working on the railroad, the freed slaves after the Civil War, the groups weren't getting along and weren't settling well because they didn't have time. There's too many people at once. Eventually it got worked out. We've always had that issue. Other countries have the same issue.
Well, my buddy Johan, he is so proud to tell you that he came to this country with a wife, 2 kids, and 2 suitcases, and now he owns his own house. He has his own camper. He has his own boat, and they worked hard to become Americans. His son's a firefighter, and they're just proud about how they have integrated into the United States,
No doubt. Excellent call, Mike. Got to run to the break, though. Good call, man. That's exactly down the middle of everything we're talking about. Let me tell you about Ox Foundation Solutions, and we'll get the break in here, oxstrong.com. Also a partner with me on my personal project and been on the radio show here with us, I think, more than a decade. This company's just tops at handling everything underneath your house, whether it's a crack or a shift or water coming in or mold, mildew, all of these things. You got to address that instantly. I noticed immediately when we designed the additional space to just have a crawl space, it didn't need a big full basement. Immediately, I said, we got to encapsulate that. I've learned a lot watching how Ox works. Turns out now that's becoming code on a lot of new construction too. You got to make sure you're dry underneath your house. If not, things can rot, floorboards can buckle. I mean, your whole floor could just start to rot out, and that stuff gets in your air. Get encapsulation done. Ox has a great program for both treating mold, getting rid of it, and encapsulating. They do all the services, leveling, concrete driveways, sidewalks, all of it. Get them over to your house. oxstrong.com, oxstrong.com. Back in a minute. Pools, a lot of home folks on the show that can do things around your house. Now, pool is not something you need. If your roof starts leaking, you're going to need a roof. You're going to need Greg Nelson. But a pool, that's just fun. That's just fun. That's living your life. That is YOLO. That's creating something cool for the grandkids. There is nobody close to the expertise anywhere around how they do it at Distinctive Pools. This is who you want to do that pool project. A lot of people will sit on this idea, start thinking about it, but sit on it for years. Distinctive can come out and give you some actual numbers, actual design, show you what it's going to look like on paper and get you some numbers to go with it, even help you arrange financing. Then suddenly you're ready to go. At least do your due diligence, do your homework, see what it would look like to build something beautiful, some new outdoor living at your house. It's distinctivepools.com, distinctivepools.com. Here's the 1819 news. One more hour to go right after this.